Good evening, everyone. Good to have you all aboard. I'm going to take you through a presentation and one of the greatest secrets in business, the 5 ways to leverage in your business to double your profits in 2 years. This is the standard presentation I normally do. This presentation normally takes about a couple more hours, but this is more interactive. So I'm taking out some of these and I'm just going to take you to a screen and I want you to think about how quickly it takes you to answer the question. So, why did you get into business? Just a question I want to ask yourselves, and you write down, put a note, ask yourself this question. Do you know the answer to this question? Why did you get into business? What made you get into business? The people have all different reasons. Some people talk about family. They wanted more time with the family. Hopefully they'll earn more money, wanted to buy a house, get a nice home, play more golf, whatever it might be. You'll see different images on here. It's just my little thing about why most business owners say to me they got into business. And the elephant in the room is normally in the middle, which is the real reason most people get into business, which is they believe they're going to make more money. But there is a side bit on that. It's having more control over your life and having time to do the things you really enjoy doing. So things like playing golf or spending time with the family, going on more holidays, where the boss, you can only go on a holiday when your boss says you can go on holiday. But once you work for yourself, of course, you can go whenever you want to go, as long as obviously the money's there to pay for the holiday. So what I want to explore with you is partly why many people struggle to achieve this. Because by the data and all the stats, it says 80% of businesses don't get to year 5. And I'm going to share with you some of the issues around that, why that doesn't happen. Now, the next thing is about a strong goal. Now, sorry, this is not showing properly. It's basically saying to open a bottle of champagne, if in 5 years' time, I was going to open a bottle of champagne with you, what would your business look like in 5 years from now? And I just want to give you a few seconds to think about that. Now, if you can't answer this question within a few seconds, then there's some issues there about how clear your goals are and how well you've developed your goals. You should be able to answer this straight away. In 5 years' time, I want my business to have this amount of income per month or per year, this kind of profit. I want to pay myself this sort of salary, and I want to have had these things done, whether it's a certain amount of staff, certain amount of clients, whatever it is. But the clearer you are about what your goals are about, the easier it is for you to achieve them. People who don't have goals and not clarity about the goals, often, of course, they don't achieve them. So it's really, really important that you have clarity about what you want to achieve. What you want to achieve is really, really such an important thing. You wouldn't leave home trying to get to Birmingham, Leicester, Scotland, wherever it is, without knowing where you're going. And just leave home and hope on the route you'll find your way. You'd want to get a sat nav or some sort of map to say at least where I'm going in the first part of the journey, and then you might stop again and review and then go the next part of the journey. Of course, if you have an automated journey, which is a sat nav, you will just keep driving. But in business, we have, things happen on the way. But at least if you have some goals, you can adjust them en route. If you have no goals at all, you're just drifting from one thing to another. And some people get lucky, most people don't. So that's why I put this moment here, because it's whatever your champagne moment would be in 5 years' time. Now, if you can't go 5 years, can you go 1? What would it be like in 1 year's time? And can you say what it would be like in 3 months' time? So say by the end of the month, so say you've got November, December now, you've got the last 2 months of the year. What would your business need to look like by the 1st of January? What do you want to achieve by the end of it? So it's really important that you set goals. Now, this is our definition. This is, if you haven't been introduced to Action Coach, I'll tell you a little bit about Action Coach. Action Coach is an organization that's been around for 25 years. I've been an Action Coach for the last 7 years. So effectively, I've bought the rights to use the name and the brand. But effectively, I'm a coach in my own right, and I run my own business. So my challenge to you is, do you have a commercial profitable enterprise that can work without you? Because if you don't, I'm going to take you through some concepts that basically mean to give you an understanding of what a business looks like. And there's nothing wrong with being self-employed, and there's nothing wrong with earning a nice living being self-employed. But what most people would want is a business that can run without them, even if they don't know it. In a sense, what I mean by this is when people talk about wanting to have more time, for family, etc. The ultimate business goal, once you understand some of this stuff I'm going to show you this evening, is to have a business that can earn you money, that passive income where you don't have to literally be there every single day of the week. Now, to have a business where you can walk away and it runs without you takes a lot of work. But to get the conceptually understand the need to do it, at least means that you're starting to build that from the start. Most people don't start with this in mind. They start a business where it will always need them. And it's a bit of a dependency syndrome, a bit like starting a family where you bring up your children so they always need you, rather than bring up your children so eventually they can fly the nest. This is what you want to do in business. Develop your business so eventually your staff can run the business for you and you have the systems in place where you don't have to do everything. Now, you might not get a business that literally doesn't need any input from you whatsoever. And not everybody wants to have that. Some people, it's their baby, so they want to be involved in the business. So in that context, what you want to do is have a business that at least has the systems in place. So if you do want to take 2 weeks off, you can literally say, look, unless somebody's dying or the building's burning down, don't ring me. Or unless, there's a really urgent client issue or something like that. I want to be away with my family for a couple of weeks, get on with it. And the business can run without you. Now, it might not be able to run, years without you being there, because there's certain strategic direction and other things you might need to do, recruitment, responsibilities, all that sort of thing. But at least have the ability to be able to say, look, I'm going on a conference on Monday. It's a really important conference for me, so I want to be there. And you just tell your staff, look, I'm out on Monday. Or it doesn't have to be something important. It could be just, I want to go and play golf on Monday. But you can tell your staff, I'm going to be away on Monday, and they will run the business without you, and they don't need you every minute of the day. Most people haven't achieved this. This is the desire, a desirable outcome to have a solid business. And I'll show you the difference with a little bit of some diagrams that might help you understand this a bit better. Sorry. So let's move along. Some of you might have heard of the cash flow quadrant, and our friend Rich Dad, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which many of you might have heard of, Robert Kiyosaki, is quite famous for the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, although Sharon Lecter wrote that book with him and she doesn't get much of the credit for it. I met her back in April at our Business Excellence Forum, so I know her involvement. She spent 10 years on the Rich Dad Poor Dad business. But anyway, that aside, one of the things he has contributed is this concept called the cash flow quadrant. And I just want to show you this briefly. Isn't this interesting? 5% of the wealth is on the left, 95% of the world's wealth is on the right. Now, most wealthy people get their money through business. It's the most effective way to have unlimited income. What a lot of business owners do is they start investing their surplus income. And that's why people get to know them often for the investment portfolio. But where do they get the original money from is often from business. Yes, some people inherit. Yes, some people, they get a business from their parents or they inherit it from their families. We know all that. But what I'm talking about is most of the self-made people were self-made through businesses, not self-made through property or something else, normally self-made through business. Yes, there's some people who work and they buy property and they do very well, but not many. And if you look at so many people, like Alan Sugar is probably the best known to many of us. Alan Sugar in this country, a lot of his wealth has come through property investment and other investments. So he's used his money from his Amstrad business and other business arms to invest money into a massive property portfolio. And he's probably going to be a much wealthier, and his billionaire status is much from the properties he owns. So this is one of the desires, is for me as a coach to help people go from an employee just over broke to self-employed. That transition is not very difficult. Most people can go from employed to self-employed because they're technicians, which I'll talk about in a second. You become you're a technician, you bake cakes, a plumber, hairdresser, accountant, whatever it is, you work for somebody else and you decide, look, I can do this for myself. Let me go and become self-employed. And most people stay there at self-employed level. You only work for the hours, you only get paid for the hours you do. Now, the leveraging, which is where the real money is having a business that's run, that you own a system. When you own a system that allows you to run a business that's not dependent on your personal input and your personal information, your personal knowledge all the time, so your technical knowledge, but the systems in the business run it for them. So that means you can employ people without necessarily employing a high level of expertise. They join your business, you can train them up and they can function and do what you do. Now, of course, if you provide a professional service, then your team will have to have some level of professional qualifications, whether they come on as apprenticeships or you employ them already experienced. Obviously, if you have a team of accountants or a team of plumbers, they're going to have to be plumbers. But they become the employees, or self-employed if they're self-employed contracts. But they follow your system like Pimlico plumbers, and that's where you leverage your money. So any one of them go sick, any one of them let you down, any one of them mess you about, you sack them, whatever, your business can still function. And you don't have to be working. Your work day or your income is not solely dependent on how many hours a day you work. Your income is based on the collective business pot that is coming into your bank account. And that is where you make your money. So you don't have to be doing plumbing to have a multi-million-pound plumbing business. Okay, this is one of the big mistakes people make. They think their business must be built around them and their expertise, but you may not be one of the best plumbers around. And it doesn't really matter anyway, because most people don't care if you're one of the best plumbers, because people don't ask, do you know the best plumber? They ask, do you know a plumber that's good enough to do the job that I want done? So you don't have to be the best. So it's not important for you to be obsessed about, can I get somebody who can do it as good as me? All you have to do is have systems to make sure your staff deliver the quality and the standards that you expect. And you say, well, nobody can do it like me. Well, that's not true, because if you die, there'll still be plumbers in the world. There's very few people that are that unique. And there's always somebody who can replace you, because people function before you're alive and they'll function long after you're dead. So therefore, your business can function without you. You just have to get over your own limiting beliefs. So that's just a little illustration of the cash flow quadrant, just to realize that's where most of the world's wealth is. So for you to build a business to the stage where you earn that surplus income, that's when you can put the investments in. That's when you start thinking about buy-to-let properties. You start thinking about shares. You start thinking about buying, flipping businesses, all that kind of stuff. But you got to learn this stuff first. Otherwise, you get yourself in a lot of problems. So it doesn't matter that you're not a business owner at this stage necessarily. What matters is you develop the mindset of a business owner. So when you think of your time and you think of what you should do to develop yourself, you think more about the type of seminars, books, or other events, webinars like what I'm doing, that focus on business growth strategies, not on being a better technician. So if you keep going on a cake conference, how to bake cakes, how to be a better plumber, how to be a better accountant, you may well be a better accountant, better solicitor, whatever, but it doesn't mean you'll earn any more money. Because apart from your mum, this is the X Factor test, apart from your mum, nobody else cares how good you are. Because people are not looking for the best XYZ. They're looking for somebody who's good enough in most cases. Because most people are not looking for a surgeon, a brain surgeon for their child who's dying that needs the best surgeon in the world. Most people are looking for problems to be solved that can be solved by loads of people, and you want them to be you. So if you're a dry cleaner, people don't look for the best dry cleaner in London. They look for the dry cleaner that's around the corner from their house. As long as it's good enough, it's good enough. And the same with restaurants. You may go to a top restaurant, but most people don't. Most people go to the restaurant that is the type of food they like, the type of ambience they like, or local to where they live, or local to where they work. They might look for something special when special occasions come along, but generally, most people look for a restaurant reasonably local to where they live, or local to the activity they're doing, whether they're going to the theatre, or they're coming from work, or whatever. They look for something convenient. And you may splash out and go to a special restaurant on somebody's birthday, or Valentine's Day, or something like that. But generally, you're not looking for the best restaurant in the country. You're looking for good enough, somewhere where you can have a nice meal at a reasonable price with quite good service. And if you can deliver that consistently to enough people, you will make good money in a restaurant business. You don't have to be the best chef in the world. There's loads of people who go to the same restaurant on a regular basis, or go to somewhere regularly for the wonderful service they receive, and the food's good enough for them to enjoy. I love Chinese food, and my local Chinese is just around the corner. I don't go anywhere else. And I'm sure I could find somewhere with better Chinese food, but it's good enough. All right, let's move on. Now, if you haven't heard of the book, The E-Myth, you need to find out about it. Write this book down, or type it into your phone and look it up. Buy this book. just buy this book or get it on audio, even better on audio because you can miss out a lot of the story at the beginning. But anyway, that's just my personal preference. Now, this ebook, E-Myth, is really useful to get over the issue of why being a technician is limiting your business growth. Now, this book is by Michael Gerber, and it's called The E-Myth Revisited. So in case you find this book, it is called the E-Myth Revisited. It was just a revised version. And he's got the E-Myth Accountant, the E-Myth Architect, the E-Myth Plumber. He's got these ones as well. But the general E-Myth book, he's just played along with that because a lot of people still believe, oh no, I want somebody who can tell me about my industry. So that's why you might buy the E-Myth Architect. But trust me, you don't need to know that. To run a successful business, you need to learn how to run a business. You don't need to be a better and better architect, and you don't need to be an expert in your industry from building a business. Yes, it helps if you can learn from people who've done it already. I'm not saying don't learn, but the skill that will get you the most money is how good you run a business. I don't believe that Pimlico plumbers, and I haven't done the research, but I would sure I bet a lot of money that Pimlico Plumbers is not the best plumbing company in the UK, but it's probably the most successful. Is Charlie Mullins the best plumber in the UK? Probably not. But does he care? No, because he's a multimillionaire. But is he one of the best at running a plumbing business? Yes, he is. And it's how well you run a plumbing business will determine how much you earn, not how good you are at plumbing. Once you get that concept, life makes it so much easier. So this book deals with a lot of those myths. The myth of the entrepreneur, because most people are not entrepreneurs. What you are is a technician. You're somebody who's good at something who became self-employed. That's why if you see point 3, most are technicians, not business owners, because that's how most people get into business. For every person that's out there, that's Alan Sugar, who invented Amstrad or created Microsoft, or somebody who like Dyson, 99.9% of every other business owner didn't invent anything. We didn't create any new product, new service, something unique. Most businesses are a copy of something else, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with having a copy of something else because it proves there's a demand. If I bring out a sandwich shop, it's because a lot of people buy sandwiches. Pret-a-manger became very, very successful in the sandwich industry. And there's nothing wrong with that. They created their own little niche. You know, Sainsbury's sells their sandwiches and Tesco's do the £3 deal. I'm sure they sell even more sandwiches than Pret-a-manger, but at a cheaper level. There's a market for these things. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be good enough. And I'm sure Sainsbury's make a lot of money out of those sandwiches. So most work more in the business than on the business. That's what I mean by a technician. You spend most of your time serving customers and you don't do marketing. You don't do sales. You're not doing that side of the business very much. You're just working when reacting to what comes in. And you could have good customers, you could have rubbish customers, but you're not planning your business, you're reacting to the demand. And you spend all day serving customers and nobody's planning or thinking about the business growth. Most people are scared to employ others because they don't have any systems. They believe it's because people aren't good enough. But how is it your competition has good staff, but you don't? You're recruiting from the same pool of people, but you're choosing the wrong ones. Try having a system to recruit rather than recruit your brother, your friend, your uncle, somebody who said they're unemployed, somebody at the pub. Maybe having a system to employ is much better than just randomly recruiting people and no contracts, no performance management system, nothing. So let's keep going. Most have little or no systems. That's the biggest problem with these businesses. No systems. So when a member of staff comes, within a month, you say they're rubbish. Now, when I come along as the coach and say, right, okay, you say the member of staff's rubbish and you keep getting rubbish staff. Right, let me ask you a few questions. When you recruited this member of staff, did you have a job description? No. Did you have an advert that clearly stated what type of person you want, what type of personality, what type of commitment, what type of attitude, what your values were of your business? No. What recruitment method did you use? Well, I didn't use one. I just got this guy. I just put an advert out in the local paper or whatever. Just random systems. Then I ask you, when the member of staff came, did you give them induction? No. Did you tell them what was expected of them? No. Did you train them? No. But you gave them a mobile phone, gave them some business cards, told them to go out and sell, and then you said they're rubbish. Who do you think is the problem? Why is it McDonald's can recruit 16, 17-year-olds and be perfectly good members of staff within a few weeks, and you can't recruit somebody in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s who's been working for 10, 20 years and you can't get anything out of them? There's something wrong with the system. So this is why it's so important. So this is why Staff can't repeat a process because there isn't a process. So they don't work consistently and do what you want them to do. You do it consistently if you want, because you know what you might want. But how does that staff know that? You have to train them. So this is why the owner gets trapped inside their business, and we draw it. You can imagine, have a little drawing with a person inside of a prison cell with bars. This is called your business, trapped in it. I was only speaking to a business owner very recently, and they're just working 90 hours a week. Who got into business to work 90 hours a week? You know, after years of being in business. This is not like a first, second year thing. This is like 7 years in, 10 years in, people working these kind of hours. That's because your systems aren't in place, so you can work less hours. So we need to build a business that can work without you. All right, let's keep going. Right, I want to show you this because this is what we call our 6 steps to massive results. I'm going to show you shortly the first 2 steps, master and niche. The 5 ways is all in the niche, which I'm going to show you, and that's where we're going to kind of finish. I want to show you one of the most magical tools in business, which is the 5 ways formula. So this is how we build a business, and we say this typically takes about 5 years to go from mastery, which I'll cover shortly, as I said, which you get control of the business. You get the basic understanding of where you want to go to with your goals, understanding how to manage your time, understanding the quality and repeat delivery, and understanding your finances and your key numbers. A niche is then going into marketing and sales, and then you go into leverage, which is using systems. Then you do developing a structure for growth, which is your team. And then once you've got that synergy where all these things are systemized and you have a well-oiled machine, that is when you can then open your 2nd branch and your 3rd branch and your 4th branch, because you've got a structure that works. Like Pret-a-Manger, once they had one place, or Costa Coffee, once they have that structured and organized, they can open a 2nd Costa Coffee, a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and that's how they do it. You never meet the owner. You don't even know who the owner is when you walk into these businesses, because the owner may be in the Bahamas, could be in Liverpool, could be anywhere. But the business is running when they're not there. They don't have to be the barista. They don't have to serve all the food. So that's where you get the go for the results, and that's, as I said, step 6 is where you, between 5 and 6, where you put in a general manager, and that's where you get your freedom, because that's when you don't have to run the business yourself, and you can shoot off to America or wherever you want to go, Bahamas, Africa, or wherever, for 3 months and say, see you later. I'll see you in 3 months' time, and you've still got that money coming in your bank every single day. Right, now I'm going to show you where we start, which is based right at the bottom there, which is mastery. From chaos to control, getting control of your business. Right, there's 4 areas to mastery. First of all is destination mastery. I hope you're writing these notes down. Destination mastery is understanding where you want to get to. As simple as that. This is where you should have your clear goals. What do you want to earn this month? What do I want to earn by the 1st of January? What do I want to earn by the end of next year? You should know the difference between what turnover you need to earn the profit you need to earn. If you only know the turnover, but you don't know the profit, again, you're deluding yourself as to what you're doing with your business. You could turn over £1 million and only earn 20,000 a year. And you can turn over 50,000 a year and earn 40,000 pounds. So you need to understand finances enough, which I'll come to shortly, so you understand the difference between turnover and profit. They say turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. Because what you actually have to spend after all your expenses, taxes, etc., is what you're really earning in your business. And that's where you can pay yourself a salary or dividends or whatever it is you want to do. And you have to take account of taxes. It's not what money you have left over after expenses, because the money you have left over after expenses could have VAT in there. So you could have £1,000 in your account, and 20% of that, after you've paid all your expenses, your basic expenses, but 20% of that could be VAT. So you've only got 800. So you need to pay yourself £2,000. You're already 400 down. Then there may be other taxes you have to pay because you're making a certain profit. So there may be other money you owe at the end of the year. You might have your accountant's bill to be paid. There's lots of other expenses that don't necessarily come up monthly that can come and cripple you in the middle of the month. So if you haven't put aside money for the VAT, and that 3rd month comes along, and suddenly you owe the tax man a few thousand pounds, you haven't factored that in, you haven't saved that anywhere, and you think you've been paying yourself £2 grand a month, and suddenly the tax man comes along and says, well, where's my money? Which is well over £1,000, and you don't have it. You've already, in a financial quandary as how you're going to pay that in the next 3 months, because they want that paid off in the next 3 months, which you've got to find £400 a month to pay that off. And if you haven't factored that into your business, you might not be able to find 400. You just can't do it because you can't pay your bills. So knowing where you want to get to is very, very, very important. And knowing where you want to get to with some numbers is even more important. So financial mastery is what I call money mastery. And I'm running a session on this next Tuesday. If you're interested, next Tuesday evening, I'm doing this live at the Holiday Inn Express in Chingford. It is a paid session, but you can get the link later on. I can give you all the details. But it's very important you understand money mastery, financial mastery, or I would rather call it number mastery, because it's not just about your financials. It's very important to have other numbers in the business. Now, what do I mean by this? So on the financial side, yes, you should have some sort of budget. Yes, you should have some sort of cash flow forecast. If you have a decent cash flow forecast, effectively, that is your budget, which is at the bottom on a spreadsheet, having all your costs, known costs, what we call your fixed costs, or your more or less known fixed costs, which is technically they call them variable costs, but some of your variable costs are also knowable. So things like petrol and telephone bills and things like that, whilst they're variable, but you can kind of know what they're going to be roughly. And even phone bills these days, you can have fixed contracts and, unlimited minutes and all that sort of stuff. So you kind of know, but some of these things vary slightly, but you could more or less predict what you're going to spend on petrol most months, unless you're, like you're a lorry driver or something. So most costs are knowable and predictable, and you can put them in a spreadsheet. And annual costs, quarterly costs need to be added as well, because a big mistake is not put your VAT in. A big mistake is not putting your insurance and other costs that might not come up every month, but are needed to be done. Renewals for your subscriptions, whether it's magazines or professional qualifications or whatever, all these things need to be in a spreadsheet. So come December, your car insurance is due, or your van insurance is due, or subscriptions are due, because that could be a cost that could be quite a lot of money that you just haven't factored in. So you need to make sure they're all on there. And then on your sales side, you should have your anticipated sales that you think you're going to sell over the next 12 months based on your previous, or based on a guesstimation of where you think your business will be. And then every month you should put in the real figure as each month goes past. So if your cash flow forecast starts on the 1st of November and ends on the 30th of November next year, or the end of October next year, in November, you will have your predicted income. But if it started on the 1st of October, you should now be entering what was the real figure that you earned from the 1st of October. So that's where it gets, it's clear from that bit. Okay. So financial mastery is not just about knowing these kind of numbers. Financial mastery is also knowing, as I said, knowing what money is coming in your account during the month and what invoices you have. So I recommend having a cloud-based accounting system like QuickBooks, like Cashflow, which I use, or Xero, or one of these kind of accounting ones that you can also have on your phone, and you can tie it to your bank account. So you literally know what yours in your account at any one time, who's paid you, what invoices are owed, what expenses are going in and out of your account. And you can really see in live time exactly where your account is. You just log in on your phone. So I recommend having that, because they're so cheap these days. There's no excuse not to have some kind of software that does that for you. Doing it manually is just a nightmare. It means you have to wait a year before you know exactly what's happening with your accounts, because you're only going to know when you give all your pieces of paper and everything to your accountant. And then you got to wait months after the end of year to find out what's happening. You should really want to know that well before the end of the year. Because if you don't know that at the end of the year, then you're really in a difficulty. If anything goes wrong in that year, you now don't have the money to pay certain things. Great if you're making loads of money, but not so great if you're underestimating what you would have earned. Now, the other bit about financial mastery is probably the most critical in some respects, is having activity data. Now, what do I mean by this? So many people in business have no way of knowing how their business is performing other than financially. And you might think, well, what else matters? Well, there's a lot of things that matter, because if you know how many burgers like McDonald's or Specsavers, how many McDonald's you save, so how many burgers you sold, or how many pairs of glasses, and how many whatever activities you have. By knowing that, you can predict what's going to happen. So for example, how many eye appointments do you have in November? When you know how many eye appointments you have in the next week, you can predict roughly how many glasses you're likely to sell, how many contact lenses. This is why activity and monitoring activity is so important, especially when you have staff, but even if you don't have staff. So you know, if I want to sell a certain amount of burgers by the end of next week, how many customers do I need to come in my shop? How many customers do I need to have in my Specsavers to know how many pairs of glasses I'm going to do? Now, in a restaurant, most people who come in buy. You don't normally browse in a restaurant like you do in Specsavers or in a retail store. You might walk in, you might just be looking, let me have a look at that new iPad or whatever, and you don't buy anything. So your conversion is an issue. In most business, there's some form of conversion needs to be done. So do you have your numbers? Do you know how many leads you have? Do you know your conversion rate? Do you know what the average customer spends on your products or services? Do you know how many times they buy from you? Is it monthly? Is it once a month? Is it one transaction in their lifetime? Is it like buying a house and they just buy one once? How many transactions do they have? Because if you don't know these things and what the margin, what the profit is on each product or service, you're all over the place. So these are so important to know. How many phone calls do I need to make per week to sell one service or whatever it might be, or to make certain appointments? So what we do is help you to identify and go backwards. So we say, right, to get one client, how many clients do you need in a month? Right, I need 3 new clients or 1 new client in a month. Right, so however many it is, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 2, depends on what your turnover, what your income you want. So say I need 1 new client a month. That 1 new client pays me £1,000 a month. How many calls do I need to make? How many appointments do I need to make? And how many people do I actually need to sit in front of to get 1 client? Now, if you know your conversion rate is 25%, it means I have to sit in front of 4 people a month to get that 1 person to buy. That's assuming those 4 are my target market. If they're not your target market, then it's a much worse conversion rate. So if they're not your target market, you won't convert any of them. So it's very, very important you have that. Once you know these kind of figures, and we can help you build on these figures, and if you're new to business, you can start developing it straight away. We can give you sheets so you can start logging. How many people called you this week? How many people looked at your website? How many people made an email inquiry? How many quotes did you send out? How many people did you respond to? So you can log this and look at how you can improve it week on week, month on month. This is absolute crucial information that all the big boys have and most small businesses don't have. And this is why people don't have knowledge of what's happening in their business. So when I show you the 5 ways, you'll see it's a key part of the financial mastery and key part of niche. Now let's go on to time mastery. Time mastery is where you can't manage time, you can only manage yourself. So you can't actually manage time, you can just manage yourself, and you can manage your productivity. So that's where a lot of these are linked. If you don't know how many calls you need to make next month or next week, to know how many appointments you need, to know how many clients you're going to get, you start the week with no idea how many hours you should be making phone calls or marketing on social media or spending time sending out posts, or how many people need to respond to my post, how many people need to book on the webinar, how many people do I need to meet. Unless you know these stuff or have some idea, then you're just all over the place in terms of your time management. And that's why we need to have systems and login stuff on your diary, or I can give you a system to log on to show what are you doing each hour of the day. Is it appointments? Is it making activities like marketing activity? Is it managing your business, looking at your books? If you don't set time aside to do these things, they won't get done if it's something you don't enjoy. Most people only do what they enjoy, and this is a problem. So this is where your time gets eaten up with being on the social media, looking at Instagram, looking at going pointless networking events that don't lead anywhere. There's no structure to what you're going to do at these events. How many business cards did you leave home saying you're going to get? Not how many you're going to give out, how many you're going to collect. Because vanity is giving out cards. Sanity is getting cards of people who you can call and potentially have a business relationship with. Giving out 50 cards is meaningless because none of them are going to call you anyway. So that's a lot of the stuff around time mastery. We can also do things where we give you systems to monitor what you're doing with your time. So you then work out, once you do a time sheeting exercise for 1 week and literally find out what you do every hour of the day, that gives you the opportunity to really see how much time you waste watching TV, getting up late, piddling around at the gym, going shopping, doing the dishes, doing all sorts of stuff other than running your business. Or if you're just spending your whole day with clients, that's fine, as long as your business is running effectively. Otherwise, if you spend all day with clients, nobody's running the business. And eventually, if those clients dry up, your business crashes or your cash flow collapses. Now, the last one is what I call the X Factor test. Apart from your mum, delivery mastery, apart from your mum, who else says you're good? Remember what I said, you don't have to be the best, but you need to be good enough. Now, McDonald's is the most successful restaurant chain in the world, but it doesn't sell the best food. So you don't have to be the best to earn the most money. You just have to be good enough. And McDonald's is good enough to serve a sector of people who are willing to buy that product. That's is what it is. It is what it says on the tin. If you want a burger, you buy a burger. An oily burger that's fried and some French fries. That's fine if that's what you want. But because enough people want that product at a price they're willing to pay, they're the most successful burger chain in the, restaurant chain in the world. And it's not about being good, it's about being consistent. So I know if I go to McDonald's, I know what to expect. I know roughly how much it's going to cost. I know what to expect from the whole experience. And it's that consistency that has made them so successful, because they have a systemized way of doing it. But it's also good to get feedback just to make sure you're not doing things that are either wrong, or you should be doing things that you're not doing. And also, there could be services that you're not providing or products that you're not providing that customers would like to have. So that's where you can learn from your feedback. So it's really important to get feedback and build a database of customers or prospects, so you can feed that database of prospects and previous customers to get them to repeat buy or come back for special offers. So, right, let's go over to the 5 ways, which is what I promised to share with you. But if I didn't give you the other concepts, it would be difficult to understand where we are. So we're at niche now. So now we're building predictable cash flow. So I'm going to show you this. Now, just a couple of things before we get onto it. If you build your business based on price alone, it's a very risky way to build a business. Very, very risky to build a business based on price alone. So if you're going out there saying you're cheap, or your price is, you're going to just discount from what anybody does, you're going to just beat the competition. This is a risky formula, because if you get somebody with deeper and bigger pockets than yours, they can discount the hell out of your industry local to you and kill you off. So you've got to be very careful competing on price alone. If you can add more value and offer less price arguments, but more about value, people will see the value they pay the price. But of course, you have to be competitive. But often, if you don't compare yourself to, well, who else is in your marketplace, often you can be a lot lower than the average in your marketplace. If you're lower than the average in your marketplace and you think you're good enough and you can demonstrate that you're good enough, you should raise your prices. Because most clients, well, I haven't had a client yet that's risen their prices with me supporting them and guiding them in a controlled way that has lost any significant custom. Anything they've lost, they've gained in the extra price increase. So worth a look. Right, the next one is, do you have a USP, a unique selling point, or do you have a guarantee? Now, don't take this literally. You don't have to have a USP. As I said, McDonald's has no real USP. It just does what it does. Its main USP is really accessible and a clean environment to eat fast food. But loads of people can copy that and still haven't been as successful. So they don't really have a unique selling point. They have a very clever, systemized way of attracting people to what they do. And that's what's made it so successful. And maybe their taste or whatever, people prefer it to Burger King or whatever it may be. But they don't necessarily have to be unique. You just have to basically provide something that's similar to what other people do, good enough to that marketplace. So you can open a dry cleaner somewhere where there isn't many dry cleaners, or there's loads of dry cleaners and you still can make money. But of course, if you just do what everybody else does and nobody can see the difference, then you're going to struggle on price or you're going to struggle on volume. But if you can guarantee or have customer pledges or commitments that can help you shine above others, then that can make a difference. Because never get quicker than a quick fit fitter, or guaranteeing something in the service can help you turn people to you where other people are going to another tire shop. So if you can have a guarantee, even if everybody in your industry has to do it, but customers don't know that. If you guarantee it and nobody else is guaranteeing it, you will look unique anyway. And that's the clever thing you need to think about. 5-year guarantee on TVs is from John Lewis and from Richer Sounds. But nobody else gives 5-year guarantees on TVs. Why? TVs don't even break down. Hardly ever break down anymore. But they've done the maths in John Lewis and realized that they get more conversions because they got a 5-year guarantee, rather than people like Curry's who try and do a 1-year guarantee and try and upsell the 4-year guarantee. But how many people who buy John Lewis with the 5-year built in already, rather than get it from Curry's? So they're losing sales. It's a mistake in their modeling, in my opinion. Anyway, let's keep going and let's get to this 5 ways, which is the real magical thing. Now, many of you might not realize, but a VW is a huge company, and the chassis, which is the undercarriage of the vehicles, are very much are generic. In other words, the chassis of a Golf and the chassis of an Audi A3 is exactly the same. Same 1.9 diesel engines, same 1.6 engines, same 2-liter engines, etc., etc. Same switchgear, same gearboxes, same electric windows, all kinds of stuff. So many things are exactly the same. But they put it on the same chassis, but they build something different. Businesses are exactly the same. Most businesses have the same chassis, they just have a different context. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So most business owners say to me, they want more customers, more revenue, and more profit. Now, the problem with this is they're all outcomes. You can't get more customers, more revenue, more profit unless you do something in front of these things. So they're outcomes. They're desirables, but they're outcomes. It's the activity, the 5 ways that you can do something with that can determine how many customers, how much revenue, and how much profit you can make. This is where it gets exciting. And by the way, that image there, that's Brad Sugars. He's the founder of Action Coach, the multimillionaire behind Action Coach. That's why his image is on there. Right, let's get into these 5 ways. Let's show you how it works. Now, I'm hoping this won't mess up. Let's see how it goes. Right, there you go. So let's put some numbers in. I think these numbers are not going to come up individually. I'm using a different laptop and it's not bringing the PowerPoint up individually. So I'll just show you the whole thing. So this is a company who was in selling TVs, you know, audiovisual stuff, retail. We did this some years ago. It was a company, we've rounded off the figures to make them easier to play with. But effectively, this was a real case. So you've got the number of leads, 4,000. And please write this down on a piece of paper so you can compare it. The blue areas are the 5 ways numbers. The red are the outcomes. I'll say that again. The blue are the 5 ways areas, and the red are the outcomes. So if you look at this company, this is a company that knew its numbers. So it developed its numbers. We helped them to find the numbers. How many people contacted the shop, either walked through the door, made an inquiry for phone, email, etc. So they wrote down the numbers. We got them to write them down, and it was about 4,000 in a year. But look at the conversion rate, it was only 25%. So out of the 4,000 people who contacted this store, only 1,000 people bought anything. So there's 3,000 people that didn't buy. They just walked in, had a look, made an inquiry, but didn't buy anything. So there's massive potential for this business to improve its conversion rate. So 25% of 4,000 is 1,000 customers. Now they knew, because they logged it and we helped them do it, that these customers on average bought twice a year. So they might come in and buy a TV, and they come back and buy speakers or a sound card or something else in that shop. One could be £5,000, one could be 50p. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is averages, and you'll see why in a minute. So the average customer came twice. So that means some customers might come 5 times, some customers come once, but on average, 2 transactions each. The average sale value was £100. So that goes to show that out of those 1,000 people, a lot of people could be buying something fairly expensive. Some people could be just buying a plug or something really small, batteries or something. So the sale was £100 average. So if you times and leverage that, it makes a £200,000 income. So if you think about it, every customer spends £100. So 1,000 customers, that's £100,000. Make sense, I hope? They come twice, that's where you get the £200,000 from. You know your margins. We worked with them on that. Their margin was 25%. Remember, this is gross profit. There's no tax taken out of this and other costs. But let's just say their profit margin was 25%. They make 50 grand. So this is with overheads though. This is including overheads. So they know their overheads and that the margin is 25% on those goods sold. Now, yes, if you're an accountant, you know it's a lot more sophisticated, a lot more complicated than that in real life. But we need to give you a system that you can know your basic numbers coming from your accounting system. And we can work with you, with your accountant or bookkeeper, to identify these numbers to help you to get hold of them on a regular basis. So you once a month or once a week or however often you want can look at these numbers and see what results. Now, the beauty of this is once you have this formula in your spreadsheet, you can then play around with the numbers. This is where it's a beautiful system. It's one of the best kept secrets in business. Now, you can then work out, if I increase my conversion rate to 30%, 40%, 50%, what difference would it make on that bottom figure, the profit figure at the bottom? Now, when you've got this formula in front of you, you can play around with it and you can decide, where should I put most of my energy? Should I put more energy in my profit margin? Should I put more energy in my average sale value, my transactions, conversion rate, or leads? Which one should I put it in? Now, generally, we would say the most expensive is lead generation. Now, in this business, fortunately, there's 3,000 people who haven't bought anything every year. So we would say to this business owner, don't waste money on more marketing, because you're going to still burn 75% of them if everything stays the same. What we want you to do is spend more time working out how you can convert the 3,000 people who are already coming to you, who you're not converting to buy anything. Now, you might have opening offers for new customers. You might change the display in your shop. You may change the way people go into a cart. You know, when they go into the cart to buy something, but don't buy because you get distracted or some reason you don't buy. If you go to Amazon and do that, within a day, they'll come back and say, you said you wanted to buy this product and you didn't actually buy it. Do you still want it? So they're very clever in knowing who's in their cart and going back to you to make sure you still want that purchase. Now, if you don't have that functionality on your website, that means people are coming to buy your products, getting bounced off because their phone rings or they get distracted with Facebook or something else, and they're not buying they're finishing their purchase. And unless you know that and you can go back to them, you can't get that purchase. You can never get that purchase. In the same way, people come into your store, have a look around, and they don't buy anything. Now, if you've got the right sales team and the right offers and the right signage in your shop, you can massively improve that conversion. I'll give you an example. Look at somebody like Dyson. When you go and buy a vacuum cleaner, and if you haven't recently, go and have a look. When you go and buy a vacuum cleaner, there's all these vacuum cleaners for 50 quid, 70 quid, 100 quid, 200 quid, whatever. But Dyson has a stand on its own. Do you think it improves their conversion? You bet it does, because it stands out just like Apple. When you go to buy a laptop, there's hundreds of, or whatever, 50 laptops there. They're all next to each other. But the Apple laptop is on its own. Why? Because it stands out. And it helps improve the conversion, because Apple know if they put the Apple next to your brand of laptop, it looks really expensive. So you got a laptop for £300 next to a laptop for £1,200. People are going to say, well, God, that's expensive. But they put it on a beautiful stand that makes it stand out and look wonderful and makes it look special. So it can have a special price. Dyson's exactly the same. £300 vacuum cleaner next to a £50 one doesn't look so cool. But a £300 vacuum cleaner on a beautiful stand next to other beautiful vacuum cleaners of the same quality for the similar price looks outstanding, and it helps convert. So think about the way you do your products and services. How do you make them stand out so your premium products or the ones with the high margin stand out? This is all part of the game. Now, I'm going to show you how to improve by just 10%. Just 10%. Now, if you can improve your 5 ways by 10% with some of the strategies that I've been teaching you tonight, just imagine what you could do with your bottom line. Now, I'm telling you, in 2 years, you can double your profits if you follow this over the next 2 years, given everything else being equal. So let's look at what it looks like if you improve each of those blue areas by just 10%. You will be surprised at what the profit margin is. Now, let's have a quick look. This is magic. This is the magic of the 5 ways. Now, with just the 10% increase in the blue areas, you've made a huge whopping difference to the revenue. Almost £100,000 more earned. And look at the profit margin. You've increased your profits by £30,000. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If you did this again the following year, this is why I can say confidently, you do this the second year, another 10%, your profits will be more than 100% improved, because you're going to go from 50% profit, £50,000 profit, to well over £100,000 profit, and therefore you have doubled your profits within 2 years. Now, imagine what would happen if you could increase the average sale value by, instead of £10, by £20. So imagine you sell bikes, and your average bike costs £100 in a children's bike shop. And you, with every bike you sold a maintenance kit for 20 quid or 10 quid plus some other accessories. What if every single person that bought a bike from your shop, you had these 2 extra questions? Would you like a maintenance package with that, sir or madam? And then when they say yes or no to that, you then say, is there anything else I can help you with? Especially when the child is standing next to them. Because what is the child going to say? Dad, can I get a light? Can I get this? Can I get that? What about the number of transactions? How can you increase the number of transactions? You can do offers to your customers. You can remind them that you're still around. But you can only do this if you know who your customers are and you've got their details. And through GDPR, you know what it is. So this is the magic of the 5 ways. I hope you've enjoyed the seminar, the webinar this evening. I've taken you through a whole number of business strategies, and I hope you can see, by knowing your numbers, how it can transform the way you see business. Because by knowing these numbers, you can now make an informed decision about how your business is performing. So it's no point saying, I think the average customer spends £80 with me, or the average customer spends 120. That's not 120 or £80 is so inaccurate that you can't build a business on that. You need to know, is it £100 or is it £91 or is it £110? Because it makes a huge difference at the end of the year if you get that wrong. So if you run a restaurant and you don't know if your customer's average spend is £25 or £18, you can be way out at the end of the month. Because if you have 100 people come in your restaurant a week and you don't know the difference, so that extra £7 that you think you were earning that you're not could be costing you £700 a week. And over a month, that's nearly £3,000 down on what you thought you were earning, because your average fee per customer, per cover, is lower than you really thought it was. So it's not small difference knowing a few pounds out. You don't want to know this by approximate, you want to know this accurately. So let me show you what the percentages are. It was a 46% increase in the revenue and a 61% increase in profit. Let's just go back again and have a quick look again. There's the figures. You see, 40 odd percent, 60%. So that's why we know in 2 years it will be over 100%. It's unbelievable. What would you do with that extra 30,000? Yeah, extra £30,000 is no joke for most people. We're not even talking about a big business here. We're only talking about a small business that turns over 200,000 and makes 50,000 profit. Imagine if it was a £1 million business. If this was a £1 million business, that profit would be £120,000. Most people, that is life-changing profit, life-changing. If you could make an extra 30,000 in the next year on top of what you earned this year, that's, for most people, that's life-changing, let alone 120,000 more than last year. What would you pay? What would you buy with £30,000? By the way, when I made these slides some time ago, I didn't, for some reason, I must have had something in my mind, because surprisingly, I'll give you a guess at what car I drive and what color it is. So there was something subliminally going through my mind, I think. And what would you do with the extra hours that you work? Because if you earn an extra 30,000, you can either pay somebody to do the things to give you more time. Even if you used to wash your car, even if you used to clean your house or cut your grass, even if you wanted to just save those little hours, you could now afford, with extra £30,000, you could afford to get a cleaner, or you could afford to get somebody to clean your car, or you can get somebody to cut your grass. That alone could allow you to spend more time with the family. Or even bigger, you might get an admin in who can do all your administration, all your bookkeeping for you, and a whole load of other things, and you can spend more time playing golf. This is why the power of this stuff here. This is why it's so important. And we're back to where we started, a lovely image of what we came into business for. So this is what we really came into business for. Now, if we have any questions, it'd be great if we can see any, if anybody can type in a question. I don't know if you can unmute them if they put their hand up, Miles.
If you do have any questions, can you actually put your hands up? And you'll find, if you're on the mobile phone, the hands up area will be, double check. It's going to be the area where you say more. So if you go to more and then raise your hands. And if you're on your laptop, you can just raise your hands. And while they're doing that, sorry, I've seen this model before, right? And I when I first saw it, I was very impressed. And I'm a former accountant, so I love things like this model. Absolutely love it. But let me ask you a question, just so that you can add more meat to your presentation. And it's this: let's say, for example, someone has a business and they say, you know what? I want to actually improve my conversion rate. I'm already getting nice leads. I don't want to add any more money to that budget. That's already handled. But I want to improve my conversion rate from, say, 25% to 30%. What would you say if someone asked that
Yes,
question?
I would say absolutely. I would show them a whole range of strategies that we have to help them improve conversion. And that's where I'm saying, what is stopping them buying now? One is feedback, maybe from the customer, why they're not buying. But generally, most business owners have an idea why they're not buying. Either the products or services, the price point is not right, the way it's displayed is not right, the way it's packaged is not right. There's something that's stopping people convert. And it's understanding that relationship. Is it your sales script? Do you even have a sales script? So those are the kind of questions I'd ask. Most people don't have a clear sales process that's actually written down anywhere. And that's the main thing I would say. Have a sales process so you can test and measure the success of that process. So you need to identify why they didn't buy.
Fantastic. Now, by the way, I did the calculation that you did on the screen by doing a 10% on all the variables. But sorry, you're understating your doubling. You're understating it. Naisha, you can unmute yourself. Naisha.
Hi.
Hi.
Greetings.
Hi, how you doing? Greetings.
I'm fine. How are you? Sorry, I haven't spoken to you for ages.
Hey, very good. Good to hear from you.
Time. Hi, Miles. Hi, everyone. I just had a quick question. Based on information that you gave, and I do know about Robert Kiyosaki and his quadrant, finance quadrant. How does that work, or can that work for someone who is self-employed, based on all the information that you just put out? I don't want to say theories, I'm looking for a better word. But in terms of,
Do you mean
go on.
Do you mean the 5 ways model?
Yeah. Can that apply to someone who is, sorry, I have to excuse my children, someone who is self-employed, or how can they then move from
Absolutely. Absolutely. So give me an example of what the self-employed is doing.
Okay, so I'll give an example of myself. So I'm self-employed as a PA for 2 ladies. So obviously they contract me to work, do what things that they need. But without them, I would then crash and burn. So how could I get to a point where I could then apply the 5 ways model?
Right, I'll show you on here. So you can apply it on any business. So okay, if we look at the 5 ways structure here, oops, I keep going too far. You'll see that you have to find clients, right?
Yeah.
So that's the number of leads. You have to find leads. So you can't just get clients, you have to get leads. You have to find a way of talking to business owners who may want PAs. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So your process of marketing to find people who want PAs is your lead generation strategies. Now, what you need to know is how many of that every person I speak to, or all the people who contact me in some way, how many do I convert into a client? Then you know your conversion rate. That makes sense?
Kinda.
So, for example, how many people would you speak to in a typical month about your business?
I don't, because maybe because I look at it more, although I'm self-employed, maybe it's my mindset. It still comes like I'm I'm in employment rather than self-employed.
Oh,
So
okay. So,
I guess my loyalty is to these people.
so how do you
And
earn more money?
well, this is the thing that I've been trying to think about. How do I get around that?
You don't want to just work for, I'm assuming you set up in business to have multiple clients.
You assuming, sorry, say that again?
You want more than 2 clients.
I do. The only problem is that because, some of the work requires me to work out of hours or out of office hours, it's like, well, how do I kind of work around that? And then obviously I've got my children as well, and I'm a single mom, so I have to think about those different things as well. So I'm just trying to think about what's the best way forward, because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. And at the end of the day, if one of them or both of them say to me, you know what, I can't afford to keep you tomorrow, I don't want to keep you tomorrow, I'm then in the same place. So how do I do that and still be fair to the people that I've given my time to, but at the same time still able to expand?
Yeah, you have to work out how many hours can you do a week. Yeah, how many hours are you willing to work a week? Doesn't matter when they are, but how many hours do you want to work a week?
Yeah.
And once you know how many hours you have, you know how many slots you have that you can sell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have to, the more systemized you are with this, the better. Rather than you work for 2 people sort of randomly, you have very specific times. If you identify very specific times when you work for these people, or you tell them when you're likely to be doing it, you don't have to tell them necessarily, it depends on the sort of work they're giving you, but you allocate time and you therefore know what time's left. And then what you're looking to do is find customers who will buy the other time slots.
Yeah.
Or fill your other time slots. They don't need to know that you're going to do it on a Tuesday night at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
If it's not something that needs to be done live, it doesn't matter when you do it. If you type in minutes or doing something like that, you can do it anytime and send it to them the following morning. They don't need to know when. It's only things like live things like emails and things like that. Obviously, you've got to look at them when they want you to look at them. But other things you can do behind the scenes, their bookkeeping and other things, filing and stuff like that. If it's electronic stuff, you can do that any time of the day. So you don't
Yeah.
need to tell them when. You just decide when you're going to do it and sell your slots. And then you decide the next thing that tells you how many customers you decide how many customers do I want. So,
Okay. So then say I've got, everything in place just the way I want it. How do I then move from that to um having a team? Let's say,
yeah,
would I
I know
create?
somebody who's done that. For example, you leverage yourself. So you want to develop, this is what I say about skill development. Your primary concern in building your business should be developing your marketing skills. If you develop your marketing skills, you will sell enough slots that you will have more clients than you can manage.
Right.
Once you have more clients than you can manage, or you start to get to that stage, you can then
I
look for
got
other
it.
people like you who
Yeah.
might want a bit of part-time work. So you
Yeah.
then employ somebody
Delegate.
and you say to
Yeah.
them, well, I'm going to charge, you don't even need to tell them what you're charging. You just say, look, I want a PA or somebody who can do a little bit of work. And this is what I'm offering. I'm offering you £10 an hour or whatever it is. But you might
Yeah.
be charging them £35 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you think about this model, you might make £30 an hour working for your clients. But if you had 10 people doing 40 hours a week, right? And you made even £15 of each of them for 40 hours each, you'd be making a lot more money than doing the 30 hour at a time, £30 an hour. Because you're now making 10 times whatever you're charging per hour, aren't you? So even if you pay them, £20 an hour and you made 10, every hour that they work, you're earning £100 because there's 10 of them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they do as I said, they do 10 hours a week. You've earned big money, haven't you? You've earned £1,000 for them doing 10 hours, and you can sit at home or go on holiday and they're still earning money when you're away.
Yeah.
And that's how you build a business.
Okay.
But the skills you need to build a business is those business skills. If you just learn to be a better PA,
Yeah.
then you won't know how to expand your business.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
You,
Thanks,
so in
Sorry.
your case, you want more transactions.
Yeah.
You don't
I
necessarily want
know.
the average sale value going up because you might price yourself out. But if you have more people buying your services, you're going to earn more money.
Mm.
Does that
I
make
should
sense?
definitely probably advertise myself and say I've got, skills in this, this, and this is what I currently do and put it out there to
Yeah, you
people.
need to promote yourself as a virtual PA. Get out there, networking, or
Yeah.
put the name out there so you can get people, or put something in the paper. You find a way.
Yeah.
Asking people if you're too busy and you need a little bit of extra help, give me a call, type of thing.
Yeah. God, I like that. If you're too busy, you need extra help. I'm gonna write it
There's
down. Thanks.
plenty of work out there for virtual PAs. A lot of virtual PAs are earning between 25 and 35 pound an hour, which is a lot of money.
Yeah. I will just have a look and see what the average is anyway, and then kind of price myself
Yeah,
from
and
there.
just price it maybe a little bit below that.
Yeah.
If you did
Start
30
with.
pounds and you did 40 hours a week, you'd be on 1,200 pounds a week.
Well, but
Even if you did 20, you'd be in 600 pound a week. In 2 months,
yeah.
you're on 2.5 grand
Yeah.
for 20 hours work. Not bad.
Okay. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Asari,
Yep.
can you tell us how we can get hold of you if we wanted to do your, I think it's from like the financial money mastery, numbers mastery model.
Yep.
How can we get hold of you if we want to do that with
The
you?
best way is to click onto my website. I will just double check it because I don't think it's currently live. I need to just quickly to put it up. I'll quickly put it up. But basically, if you ping me an email,
Where can we ping you the email to? Because you haven't got anything on the screen.
yep, Asari St Hill. So it's Asari st-hill at actioncoach.com is the easiest way to get hold of me.
Actioncoach.com.
That's it.
What I'll do for everybody who's come on this course, I will actually email you those details. If you want to go ahead.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'll actually, I'll send you the link so you can send them the link and you can click on the link and that will tell you all about what I'm doing on Tuesday.
Okay, so I'll get that done for Asari. Anyone else got any other questions?
Don't be shy.
Asari, I would like to demonstrate something. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Because what you've got here, I personally think is magic, right? Obviously, not literal magic, but it's just powerful. And those of you who don't know me, I actually teach the stock market, all right? And so a lot of the times when you want to sell your business, all right, the stock market is one of the places you would go to sell your business, obviously. And so a company like, say, Barclays Bank have sold their business, and that's for sale, and you can go stock market for it. But Asari, I want to use your exact model, if I may, and show what happens if you had an exit strategy. Can I show you that?
Yeah.
Right, what I'm going to do very quickly, and this is the power basically of Asari's model, because this is one of the reasons why I want Asari to talk to you guys, because it's if you use it and you do it properly, and you hire Asari to get you up to speed, this is basically what's going to be available to you. But let me just quickly see if I can. Now you can see scenario 1, scenario 2 here.
Yeah.
Now this is what when Asari was saying this is basically 10% increase from there gives you that, and obviously if you just drop down to the bottom, you go from 350 to you go from 50 grand to 80 grand in 1 year. Year 3 would be 129, doing the same thing, 10%. 200 grand is year 4, 300 grand is year 5. Now, when you decide you want to sell your business, the question is, what's your business worth? Well, one model is to take your profits right here and multiply it by something called the price earnings ratio, P ratio. And I'm going to take now on the stock market, you can have a P ratio of 20, but for private companies, it's anywhere between 4 and 12. So I just pick 7 as a random number in the middle. Okay. Now, if you take this, if you have in scenario 1 that Asari gave you, If you want to sell your business making 50 grand, you can sell your business worth 350 grand. Okay, so you could sell your business for 350 to someone who wants your business. Year 2, your business has gone from 350 to 500, then from 500 to 900. Okay, then 900 to 1.4 million, and now 2.3. And my point is, a 5-year program, growing the way Asari develops your business, can turn your thing from a piddly 350 grand valuation into a 2.3 million valuation. And you can plan that in advance, right from the beginning. Now, Asari, I'm going to bring it back over to you because I want to steal your show. But essentially, this is what Asari's model is effectively giving you opportunity to access.
Yeah.
Back to you, Asari.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so and also the other easiest way to get a hold of me is just Google my name, Asari St. Hill. It's very unique. So if you Google it, all my stuff comes up. You know, on Google, or my LinkedIn, Facebook. Click on my Facebook, like my Facebook page, so you can find out all the stuff I'm up to. LinkedIn, all the messages I got on there. There's videos on there as well. So there's plenty of material, and as I said, my website will be up there as well. I'm going to update those links shortly. I've also got a seminar, free seminar on I think it's the 20th of November, which I'll be covering this stuff in a lot broader. You get this plus lots of other stuff as well. But it'll be live.
Daniel, as a budding entrepreneur, tell me, what questions do you have for Asari?
Someone who's starting up their business, what's the best way to gain customers? So I'm thinking of doing an online business selling like not secondhand, but other people's products, but just listing them at a higher price. Called dropshipping. I don't know, you've probably heard of the model before.
Yeah.
What would you say, what's the best way to market your business? Because obviously if nobody knows about your products, you're not going to get any sales.
It's something called education marketing. You basically have to educate your market that you exist. So who would be your ideal customer? Do you know who your target market is?
That depends ultimately on my product. And right now I'm doing product research, but I'm thinking of just doing like random stuff that I wouldn't usually buy myself, or things that would sell, things such as like face masks, and because the winter season's coming up, we're selling seasonal products.
Right. So it could be seasonal stuff, topical stuff.
Yeah.
So what you need to consider is whatever it is, you need to think who will buy it. Who are what is the sort of demographic that's most likely to buy this product? Because your marketing, the biggest mistake people make in marketing is they don't know the target market. So they start with a marketing strategy before they start with who am I trying to reach.
Yeah.
So you can have a great strategy. You can arrange with Sainsbury's that you're going to have a store right outside of Sainsbury's. Absolutely fantastic. They're not even going to charge you for it. They're going to give you a little pitch and everything. You can put your banner up and everything, and you're going to sell yachts. You don't sell any, because you're selling yachts to people in Sainsbury's, and 99.9% of people don't have the money to buy a yacht, and they're not going to Sainsbury's to buy a yacht. So they think it's really odd that you got this big yacht in the middle of the car park. So a lot of marketing has that kind of approach to it, where it's not that the product isn't good. It's nobody knows about the people who you want to buy it don't know about it, and they don't know what it's worth or its value. So what you got to look at is what problem are you trying to solve. So if you got masks for cold weather, who would buy that? Because most people in England don't wear them. But people who do fishing, people who do, I don't know, late night bikers, or bikers, you know, I don't know who would buy it. But it's once you understand that market, then you might want to do that to a motorbike website. You see what I mean? Or security guards, or I don't know who else would wear them, fishermen or whoever. But you have to identify, well, who will buy a mask? Because if you just put that generally and just tell everybody on Facebook, most people aren't going to buy it because it's not relevant to any of us. We find it quite odd. But if you can identify some kind of platform, once you understand who they are, then you can target them. Fishing rods, I don't know, whatever it is, anything can sell. I know a black couple who was successful at selling fishing rods to Australians online. Because they did their research and they knew that people in America and people in Australia will buy from unknown people because they have the concept of ma and pa stores. As in England, people tend not to buy unbranded products unless they're cheap. They're a bit weary about buying unbranded product. The concept of ma and pa store doesn't really exist in England. So you have to know know those little nuances, and a lot of it can be done on internet in terms of research. But you need to know who you're targeting, or even think about who you're targeting before you even think of the product. Because you also need to think about who buys online. I mean, in this country, nearly anybody buys online, but not everybody.
Yeah.
If you aim a product of people over 60, you might struggle with some people over 60 to buy it online. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So think about what can be leveraged. What can you buy in significant numbers without high risk, so you can leverage it. So ideally, it's where you don't have to buy the stock.
Yeah.
You get the other company to send the stock out, so you don't have to hold stock.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just order through your site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic, because then if you order 2, they order 200 or 2,000 or 20,000, you're not holding all that stock in your garage.
Yeah.
And somebody else is sending it to them, so it's all organized and all automated. So you can be selling when you're asleep.
I think that's the model where I would have to buy the product and store it myself, but just
so you can make money. Yeah, you can make money when nothing's when you're not even active.
Daniel, thank you very much for that question. He says, awesome presentation. What are the key skills within marketing that a self-employed person should focus on learning?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to be specific, but you should definitely understand the model of target, offer, copy. Target, offer, copy.
Target, offer, copy.
Target 80%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Offer 10% and copy 10%. Right. What this means is 80% of marketing is understanding who you're marketing to. Identifying who your target market is. It's a crucial element that most people miss out. Then a compelling offer is then the next thing to understand, how to make compelling offers to that target market. And then the last one is, what medium are you using to reach them? Is it leaflets? Is it social media? Is it whatever? A lot of people come up to me, young people, and say things like, you need to use Instagram. And I say, fine, okay. But they haven't asked me who's my target market. Because if they ask me who's my target market, my ideal market are people who predominantly are over 40, who are substantial business owners, who got a business of $250,000 upwards. Just say for argument's sake, right? How many of that profile are regular users of Instagram? Do you see my problem?
Mm-hmm.
So often people are chasing a market and just using a median before they know what the market is. You know, if you're going to target certain people, but you don't know who you're targeting, then you're using the wrong method to get to them. So that's why it's so important to know that. So that's why I would say marketing, and read books on marketing. Read the top people like Grant Cardone, Brad Sugars, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar. These are the top people on sales. Historically, always been the top people on sales. You know, so any material you buy from these people are fantastic stuff.
Can you talk about exit strategy?
Yes, exit strategy. Now, this is really interesting, because this is where we talk about running a business that can work without you. Because if you don't think about systemizing your business, effectively there is no exit strategy, because you don't have anything to sell. Yeah, if I run a barbershop or I run a restaurant or something, and it's centered around me for the last 10 years, 20 years, if I sell it to you, what are you actually buying? Because I've built a 20-year customer base that's centered around Asari and knowing Asari. And if I walk out the door, will those customers come back? So what you want is, if you have an exit strategy, your exit strategy should include either you're gonna buy and run. Some people do that. So for example, the drop shipping concept, say, right, 10 years ago, I found that those metal scooter things are going to sell big time. So I go crazy and get them all in from China and sell millions of them, knowing that within a few years, everybody will have them and all the shops will have them, and then I'll have loads of competition. So my only exit strategy is I don't keep any stock. I've not built up any sort of costs, major costs. I'm just drop shipping them out to everybody. And I know when the market dies, I've made my money, thank you, and I run. So I've sold a million of them. I made £5 on each. I made £5 million, thank you very much, and I do a runner. But most people, that doesn't happen. You don't hit gold in that way. So whatever business you're going to set up, you need to have a system of that business, a systemized business. I actually have a link that I can send people if you want to know the value, the key value indicators in your current business. And I'll give it to you for free. And it has 8 key drivers. And John Rirolo, who wrote the book, I've forgotten the book now, Built to Sell. He wrote the book Built to Sell. He's got a company called Value Builder that he can show people online. And basically, we've bought rights to it. So because we've bought rights to it as Action Coach, I pay a fee every month so I can get access to that Value Builder. So you can get your score across these 8 drivers. And one of the drivers is the business independent from you? And is the business systemized and you have a client base? Because that's what I really want. I want your client base and your goodwill. But I can only get that if you have systems. Because if it's all based on you, then as soon as you leave, I've lost everything. But if you've got McDonald's, that's why you can buy and sell a McDonald's, or you can buy and sell a Costa Coffee, because you're not buying the owner. The Costa Coffee is not relying on any one customer, and it's not relying on any one person. So I could buy the Costa Coffee off you, and no one customer would notice. They would have no idea that I bought it. And that's value. So your exit strategy should have some sort of, as I said, some strategy to get the business profitable, and then you want to be able to sell it. In fact, most of the money that people make in business is through buying and selling. It's not from the cash coming through the till. It's actually building it up to a value and then selling it. Why do you think the guy that owns Facebook is so rich? It's not the cash he's earned from Facebook. It's the cash he earned by selling it. And he's got the best situation where he sold it for $5 billion. He's got the money in his pocket. And then they say to him, I want you to continue running it. So they now pay him a salary to run it. But he's already made his $5 billion. So if Facebook went belly up tomorrow, he's already rich. So it's all the money is in the systems.
Fantastic.
And the client base.
Any other questions before we let Asari go? Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. I've been out of the room for a while, so I hope you haven't already said this. But in terms of systemizing your business, if you're, for example, a sole trader and you want to start to systemize your business,
Yeah.
what would be the first steps that you would take? What would you advise a sole trader who is involved in all aspects of the business and who may be time poor? What would you advise in terms of those first steps to systemizing your business?
A couple of things. One, buy the book Instant Systems by Brad Sugars. You can buy it off me if you want, but buy that book because it shows a 9-step way of building systemizing your business. And then the key thing is systemizing all the things that are routine, all the things that you repeat and do over and over and over, systemize it. So that gives you a structure to how to do it. And it starts with your values and your mission, vision stuff. So the first step to systemizing the business is, what's the point of the business in the first place? But if you just want to do something very simple, it's systemizing all the routine actions that you do. So what's your business?
Personal development training, life coach.
Okay.
And energy healer.
So all the forms you use, the emails you send, the marketing you use, how much of it is systemized?
It is to a certain extent, because I like to write things down.
So that is, and it's systemizable, so you can use it. All your forms. If you go see a client, you've got a form that you always use.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes, because
so
that's how I like to work.
Yeah, so you've got all your forms already developed, so you just print them off when you need them, or you can do them electronically, depends on what you prefer.
Yeah.
Even the inquiry, when somebody first speaks to you, do you have a form that you fill in that gives you all the basic information that you need from that person, and even the script of what to say and how to say it, how to close them, how to get them to say yes or whatever information you want. Get all the right questions and positioning the follow-up and all the rest of it. That's all part of systemizing. And then
Right.
if you run seminars or you run social media or something, do you have a way of things that you do on a regular basis? So that's what I mean by starting to systemize the business.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything that you do over and over and over, you want to have a system to make it easier to just repeat doing it.
Yeah, some of that I've started to put in, well, some of that I've got in place because some of the forms that, for example, that you mentioned, I've been using for quite a few years. So some of that is set. I think it's just a case of expanding on that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then there's other things. There's loads of tools out there. Like, instead of doing your bookkeeping manually, spend 15 quid a month and have QuickBooks or something like that, where you can just type it straight in. All your invoices are sent. It's all stored. And then when you send another invoice, it's all there already. You just press a button and just put the figures in, and then it just emails it to the person. You know, these things can be automated, you know, so it just makes life so much easier. Landing pages, £90 a month. Sorry, £90 a quarter. And I have my lead pages and I have my unlimited landing pages. I can just keep copying the same one or reusing it with change the dates.
Right.
All this just makes life so much easier. So there's lots of tools like that you can use. CRM, do you have a CRM system that once you've collected somebody's data once, you don't have to keep typing it in every time? You can create groups as well. So you can say, right, all the people who've come to my seminars or all the people who have done X or Y, you can just press a button and send them an email or an offer for whatever it is you want. So it's just getting all those things put in systems. So it just saves you a lot of time and a hassle.
Mm.
Even packs at home, you can have things packed, books that you bought, a pack of, like, if you get a new client, you give them a folder, what's in the folder, that can all be planned in advance. So you have that all just in your house, it's sitting there. And as soon as you get
Right.
it, you just send them the pack. You know?
Great.
Hope that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does.
Thank
Thank
you very much for that. Nyasha has a question, or she got a hand up. Nyasha? Can you unmute? Okay, she...
Sorry,
there we
no,
go.
I was on a different page. No, I raised my hand and to ask the question. So the question was in the group. Just to repeat the name of the book, please.
Was that for systems?
Say that again. Sorry.
Which book for systems?
Yes.
It's Instant Systems by Brad Sugars. It's got a 9-step process to systemize your business.
And you can buy that from you?
They can buy it from me as well if they want, yeah.
How do we get? I don't know if I got your number anymore. I should do. But if
No,
we
it's
can't,
on
how
my-
do I get hold of?
Just Google me, you can get me anyway. You can get it online as well. You can buy it online if you want it delivered, or you can see me and I'll sell you one.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry, very, very quickly, it's Carmen again. You mentioned some percentages in terms of target, offer, and copy. Can you repeat those percentages?
Yeah, it's the target market is 80% of importance.
Yeah.
And the offer and the copy, which is the median, is only 10%. So why I mention that is so you realize what you should spend most of your time on in terms of marketing. Yeah, focus on the target market more, get that right. And then even if your marketing is poor, because we all have to develop, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're targeting the right people, you speak to enough of them, somebody will like you enough to do it, even if you're crap at doing it.
Right,
If
yeah.
you're crap at marketing, but good at what you do, somebody will notice.
Mm.
You know, you might not have great marketing, but you cook good food, or you're a good life coach. So if you can get in front of enough of the people who would want what you want and willing to pay, even if you're not good at presenting it, but that you're just around these people a lot and they get to know you, they're going to buy your services.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
see
that
what
makes
I mean?
sense.
But when you're not around them, it don't happen. It's like, how many of us have bought from a shop that isn't great? But the reason why you bought is because it was there by the bus stop. Isn't it? You went in there because you were literally at a bus stop waiting, and you thought, or you're at a train station or something. You thought, I want a packet of biscuits, or whatever it is you wanted, a newspaper, whatever. And you didn't buy it because it was a nice shop or it was a great shop or their marketing was great. It's just convenience. So you have to be in the game. You have to be in front of your target market to have any hope. If you're a shop, then you have to open a shop in the right place, or get people to come to your shop by telling the right people that where your shop is. People will travel to your shop for the right thing, but they won't travel for your shop if it's not niche. No, you're not going to travel 5 miles to buy a newspaper unless you live in the country. But you're not going to travel 5 miles and drive past 5 shops to buy a newspaper because it's too low price. But you will drive to IKEA that could be 20 miles away if you want to buy a furniture for £3,000 because it's worth the trip. You see what I mean?
Mm.
So that's why I say target market's everything, because you can open a IKEA in the middle of nowhere and attract people to it, because people will drive to it because they want to drive, because they want to have a car or a van, and attract people to come to it. And that works. But that's why some people move off site. They move off the high street. I've got a florist I used to work with, and she stopped selling from a florist, from her shop, and just does it from home and just delivers. And she just drives people to ring her and contact her through her website, and she just delivers them. The money she saves from not having the shop is more than what she was getting from just casual walk-ins. So instead of her getting the person that comes past the shop once in a while, she's now getting the regular people who want higher premium flowers. Because you're not going to ring her for flowers if you're the sort of person that goes in Sainsbury's and buys flowers for £3. But does she want the people with £3 flowers anyway? That was not making any money. So you might as well go niche.
Yeah, and I think that's quite a good point, because it's about getting around people who then you can target with sort of entry-level services, and then build a rapport with them, and then eventually they come on board and purchase your more premium or your higher level services.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry. There are a number of shops in the community I come from where they might have like a takeaway shop, and their service is appalling. All right. What would you do with someone like that? Would you just leave them to die, or would you say I mean, imagine someone who had a horrible, say, Caribbean takeaway, and in terms of the service. I don't mean the food. The food is okay, but the service is terrible. What would you do with them?
Yeah, so the food's okay, but the service is poor. Well,
yeah,
I think you got to give them the feedback and tell them straight away that, look, you're going to hemorrhage clients because the staff are not representing you really well. And 1, are you aware of it? And 2, are you happy with it? Because typically people employ the wrong people anyway. They don't have an employment system, so they just employed people who wanted a job, somebody they knew, a friend of a friend of the family, that kind of thing, and then they don't perform the way they want. They need to get people who are running that takeaway or the front of staff who are people with the right mindset, the right attitude, and you can get them. They do exist, because they don't do that foolishness in McDonald's or whatever. And you're paying the same money that McDonald's pays, or very similar. How is it that you go in a Costa Coffee and somebody's low paid and they treat you perfectly nice? You go into a Caribbean takeaway or something, quite typically, and they're not treating you right. Well, you're paying them the same money, so they are around, but you're not attracting them in the right way.
Would you say it's about training systems?
Yes, it's partly about training as well, and also you must they must train them on what they want them to do, what they want them to say, and how they want them to say it. Don't assume that they'll copy you and they'll know. You need to, don't assume anything. Tell them what you want. McDonald's doesn't assume that people know what to say, so they tell them, this is how to use the computer. This is how, if somebody comes in and says they want a hamburger, you say, would you like fries with that, madam? If they say yes, you say, oh, you might as well go for a meal. If they go for the meal, you say, do you want to go large? You teach them these stuff so they know what to say, and they say it without blinking. So it just looks like a nice, relaxed conversation. I don't think most of them that are badly behaved are trained. They're just all over the place. They just put them in a t-shirt and just say, sell my stuff. And they just do it however way they feel like doing it, because they're not trained how to do it.
So essentially, with good training, that would be fixed.
It will be fixed. But you also have to have a decent recruitment system, because if you don't have a recruitment system, you recruit your brother's daughter, or your friend, your mother-in-law's best mate or something, because they asked, and then you try to train them and they don't want to do what you're saying because they think, oh, you're family, I'll just do it the way I feel like doing it. You're just banging your head against the wall because you recruited the wrong person in the first place. You got to recruit somebody who buys into, at least at some minimal level, what you want to do, and is willing to be trained.
Cool.
You keep getting the bloke walking past the pub. You're going to get what you're going to get what you ask for, kind of thing.
No, thanks a lot for that. Anyone else got any questions for Asari before we let him go? On that note, Asari, I want to thank you very much for this absolutely enlightening presentation. And
Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank the audience. Thank you very much for your time, your attention, and your questions. And I wish you all a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thanks very much.